We are dominated by Dan's today.
Always nice to have more. That's an impressive hat. I got to give it to Carlos this time. He wins the hat award.
What? Ah, thanks. You guys are boring. Boring. Open source guys.
नहीं मैं आया हूँ 5:30 नहीं
तो नीचे मना कर दीजिए हम इससे बात करते हैं
All the heading and tires noted in the minutes now. I muted chat and just let you know. So feel free to start. We're recording.
Great. So I guess we'll get started. So welcome to the Tech Exchange. I'm Dan. I will be your moderator for this particular call. Do we have anybody new? I'm probably not the best person to determine newness, given that I'm reasonably new.
Looks like it's all veterans.
All veterans. Okay. So I guess we can dispense with that. I was trying to hunt around for any interesting PRs that looked kind of like big or gnarly. Does anybody have anything they specifically want to talk about or bring to the group's attention? No. Okay. Is there anything else anybody actually wants to talk about? The only feedback I got, sorry for the slightly late announcement on that, by the way, calling for topics. So I wanted to give anybody a chance that's on the phone right now that wants to bring up something that obviously isn't a prior PR, a chance to bring up any topics. Is there anybody on the phone that wants to give an update? Like, I don't know if we want to talk again about the packaging, the release stuff.
Yeah, we'll have
that seems to.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the release stuff briefly, both.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else anybody from the Kubernetes side of the house want to talk about what you guys are up to, or no?
I think there's nothing too major. I mean, we just there was one PR I've been working on for a while that got merged early this week, which supports log consolidation using the Invoker agent, but that's relatively straightforward. It doesn't need any time here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like a moment to talk about Wis Deploy, if you will, too, at the end.
Sure.
From notable changes, you hear me? Okay. In the main repo, I think Rowdy did a PR template, which is good. Now when you open a PR, you get a template and avoids kind of empty PRs. So it has a good checkbox. Notable. The other thing, I think it was just today, there was a PR merge around HTTPS between the edge and the controller, and that caused kind of a few headaches around a few repos. I think Vagrant may be in trouble still. I haven't looked at it. We might be able to discuss to think to see if it's possible to make it HTTP by default, not in Travis, but at least for local development. But that's something to discuss, I guess, in the mailing list or an issue. Other than that, I don't see anything else notable in the main PR.
Okay. Well, great. I think we've got a bunch of topics now as well that got added. So I just wanted to give a quick update on some of the work that Tyson and I are doing at Adobe. So obviously we got the Mesos Container Factory merged in, I don't know, maybe right before the last Tech Exchange. So we've gone ahead internally and built out a deployment of that. That also includes some of the Splunk changes that we had. So similar to what I think the Kubernetes guys are up to, we are also consolidating container logs at a collection point on the invoker and then forwarding those via FluentD or TG agent, whatever, out to Splunk. And then on the controller side of the house, pulling those logs back in through the CLI. There's still a bunch of work that we need to do on the Mesos side around high availability of the controllers, which is what we're working towards now. We have to sort out some of the deployment issues on our side with the upstream that we also have with dependency on the Mesos agent, where we don't have all of the facilities that are required to do some of our internal connections to Docker registries and things. So we're just exposing a little bit more functionality into the Mesos agent layer, which I'm working on with right now. So once that lands, hopefully we'll have a fully working Mesos deployment internally that we can start throwing traffic at and see how it does. This is where we think we want to go from a deployment strategy long term, given that we do have a lot of in-house expertise with DCOS and Mesos. So that's kind of where we're at with that. There will probably be some more upstream impacts on the container factory as we as we add functionality to the Mesos agent. We're probably going to want to then use that functionality in the Mesos container factory. But that should mostly be simple changes around the edges, nothing too major in the container factory at least. So that's pretty much it from our side about where we're at. We'll obviously have more information as we continue to go forward and throw some load at the system and really see how it handles it and how it performs on the Mesos infrastructure. So that's pretty much it from our side. Carlos, do you had 1, 2, 3 things to go through?
Yeah, I submitted a few things just in case nobody else had something interesting to say. I can share a few things quickly. I thought Matt is going to talk about Wis Deploy process. Okay, yeah, I can show mine quickly. Let me share my screen. Can you not start screen sharing with the other participants sharing? Yeah. Oh, I can share that stuff too. Nice.
There you go.
Can you see my screen?
Yep, we got you. Okay.
A few things here. It's just last minute doing some slides so I can show. So the first thing is Swift 4. I have a PR in the core repo to make it default to be able to be included by default. At the high level, just want to go over a few differences between Swift 3, Swift 4, and then talk a little bit about what's coming in Swift 4 related to the Go proxy that we have been discussing in the mailing list. So these are the versions. We went ahead and skipped version 4.0 and we took 4.1. 4.1 should be done. You're just picking, the Swift team is just picking critical fixes. I think that I didn't see a beta this week, so I think that the last build is the one that I included. For the proxy, same as before, Python, but in the future we're going to use Golang. This is faster and it will give us some of the looping, having the program not exit. We made changes on Swift4 in terms of input in the epilogue, from taking an environment variable to standard input, and then in when we do the new proxy, we'll do the input, standard input, but in a loop. In terms of user experience, we improve it. We used to take one single main signature. In terms of the single source, you can always compile and do, a developer can do whatever they want, as long they parse the environment variable standard input. But as the single source, it's nice to have Codable, which is the new way of handling JSON in Swift 4 and forward. So we have a Codable out, Codable in. I'm going to show that in a minute. In terms of async, in Swift 3, we kind of have async, but it wasn't that you needed to do a dispatch and block. Swift 4 is an easier way of like doing a completion, or what some other people call a callback function. In terms of input, there was a problem. It got fixed in the Docker container skeleton, where we were using the standard arguments and only handle 128 kilobytes of input. So that was a limitation. So probably I would not note that in the docs. Now, since it's standard input, we can take up to 1 meg of standard input for an action. We still, every invocation of the function is a executable run, but hopefully in the Golang, when we do Golang, it will be in a loop so that the program will not exit. So you can have instances of your classes in Swift be still around by the time you run the same container again and again. So that should improve the performance. In terms of init time, Michelle have done some investigation and put in the mailing list of comparing the Python proxy, the overhead that has compared using Go. So it's much faster. So I'm looking forward to those changes down the road. In terms of Codable, these are kind of like 3 examples that I have. So one is takes an input, which is a Codable or decoder encoder type of Swift, and then you get a function. So when you're done, you call the function and return the Codable, or you can return an error. So it's a function. It's the second parameter. You can also have the option of having no input. So sometimes you may have a function or an action that doesn't take any input, so it just handles the output. So this is the example for that. And then for error is something. If I can put this one bigger, you would return an error, and in your code you can put like, for example, this is a throw catch. So if you catch an exception, you can pass the error down, and it will be on marshal into a string, and then the function will fail. So all that handling of these functions is done by the epilogue. It's just a default epilogue that comes with the container, but you can change it and customize it as you compile. And the instructions are in the repo. This is the PR that I have open, and then these are the instructions on how to work with Swift 4, how to compile Swift 4. I provided a single script that will handle Swift 3.1 or Swift 4.1, and it will compile either one with their unique things, and also, as always, handling the package.swift, which is different in each one. So this is related to Swift. Let me see if I explain the next thing, and then I do a demo if everything's working. For user logs, similar to what Dan explained, we're doing something similar, taking advantage of this changes that we did in the invoker. Basically, is as we run user containers, action containers, we grab those log files, and then with Logstash, we send them to Elasticsearch, and then they can be served by something like Kibana. So that's kind of the benefits of putting this in open source, and then we can leverage it in IBM Functions. And I'll show a demo.
Hey, Carlos?
Go ahead.
Are you guys using one of the Docker log output plugins, or are you just still scraping the JSON via whatever you have running on the invoker?
I believe we do using a what's called a driver, a Docker driver.
One of the log drivers. Oh, okay, cool. All right, nice.
Yeah. So in terms of a downstream using that open source, I have here a console. This is the IBM Cloud Functions. So I have an example here of like have my actions here, and I created a Swift 4 action, so you can see the Codable output. So this is the input, this is the output. I have a log line here, so when I run this, I should see the output coming out. So it says hello stranger. If I change the input, what does it say? Valid JSON. It's valid JSON. It says hello Carlos. So that's the output. This is the log line. So as you run more and more, then you'll be able to click on here or just go to our to Kibana, and basically you will see a Kibana. This is just a regular Kibana, and then you will see your user logs and also activation records. Activation records information in there will be like the init time and the duration and the specific about the activation record. But the interesting part is be able to see my logs show up in Kibana, and as I run many functions, it's easy to use things in Elasticsearch like visualizations or searching through the logs, so I can have access to my logs from there. And that's the integration we did, taking the open source and integrating into our vendor offering. I think that's it for that piece. Any question before moving on?
Do you allow the users to fetch the logs from that from Kibana when they use the Whisk CLI?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, James is working on that, so maybe he can show some of that open source work on the next interchange, where the CLI, from the CLI, you can go either to CouchDB or Cloud and or go to the log elk. So you should see a PR open and in progress from James Dewey. So he says heads down on that. So it should be good to have that in open. And the next thing was, which I didn't have time to do a demo, but I'll show it because I think people are asking and maybe don't realize that we have it. So this is a contribution from Mark Dusser and Mark, and I think Jesse also contributed this work, is that with API Gateway, now you'll be able to create a APIs and specify the path, but in this time you can specify with curly brackets. And basically this information, this wasn't possible before. So now it's possible to put your path parameters in here, and then the information of the full path now will show up in OW path. Before it wasn't showing up. So with the recent changes on the CLI to configure the Swagger, then the Swagger information, config information now has this information. So you could do it before, but it was kind of painful. With the CLI, it's a nice way of doing it. And then I think the API Gateway team guys that are also own a piece in the UI will also surface that through their UI, which is our UI, is everybody's UI. So you'll be able to do it here, but for now you'll be able to do it from the CLI. And something that people were asking to see if we didn't have, but we just added it. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. So it's available from the WSK or just the BX WSK, which is the IBM one. I don't know. That's what I had in terms of showing a few things that we're leveraging in open. Comments, feedback?
Just a quick one from me. I think that Swift work is really good. Thank you for that. Particularly like the README, very clear.
Oh, thanks. And the script that I included, I took inspiration from you, Scott, which is an open source that both were using a makefile and using something like compile.sh. So then it's easier that everybody uses the same shell script.
Yes,
so
definitely.
thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob. Okay. I think that's all I wanted to show for now. Let me stop sharing.
Great. Thanks very much, Carlos. So next up was any more updates on the release process from Vincent?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I should share my screen. Yeah, in terms of the OpenWhisk release process, I actually updated our PGP keys for the Travis build to sign our artifacts. I used to use my private email address and my name as a name plus the key to sign the artifact, but I will find out this is not quite well to do in such a personal account oriented way. Then I sent out the notes to the dev list as well, telling everybody that we call the Travis guy, the Travis views, we can name it as the OpenWhisk release bot. And then we give them a kind of virtual email address so that this bot and this guy can take care of the release processes after it imports the public and private keys. Speaking of the private and the public key, we can find it actually over here, but don't be panicked. The private key is actually encrypted over here. Now let's see, this is kind of binary. And the public key is available everywhere so that we can access it and verify all our signatures or the checksum of each artifact. By the way, the SVN server, SVN repositories we use to stage our artifacts are also updated with this public key. So this key is available over here and under the SVN repo as well. So that's about the keys. We got the keys. And then we have got another commit from Daisy, which enables our script, which makes it possible to generate our release notes. This is definitely good news. We're now able to generate a release note for each repositories, as we can list over here. We just iterate each repo after we download the source code and generate the release note based on our commits, based on the Git history. Well, somebody else pinged me. Okay, here is the template, as we can see, to generate the release notes. So definitely good news. So this is not a part of automated mode, but this could be a very, very handy, very neat for a release manager to have a general ideas for further publishment regarding a certain release of OpenWhisk. So it's definitely very neat.
So I just want to say that this is just merged, and Daisy said she still has some work she wants to do on it, but she said that she was going to post to the dev list and ask for comment on the format. Right now, she pulls all the merged PRs, but we want to make it timestamp based from the last release. So that's work she still wants to complete.
Yeah. Yes. And we send PRs to almost every repo regarding the missing headers. We add the headers if necessary. I think they all got merged. So at this moment, our source code have all the source code files have valid Apache license headers. So this is definitely something we can claim as well. And we're still working on the notice file. Notice file is expected to contain the the descriptions of the lessons of our source code, and we're still working on the description of the lessons regarding each dependencies or the package we're using. So and Daisy and I are working closely, and we hope we can get this done as soon as possible, because we have let's say 13 repositories, and our source code, it may use some third-party libraries or other kind of dependencies, so we have to take care of their lessons as well.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what the bar is, both from Apache and from people in Apache Spark. I know some people who did that work. I want to see what their criteria was for listing things in the notice file.
Yeah, if they're hard dependencies, and then we can define what's hard. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the update regarding our release process. We have to make sure we have definitely valid and comprehensive license and notice file available in each of the repos. And we have already get the keys taken care of, and we're also able to generate a release note for any further release we're about to publish. So that's the current status of the release.
Great. Thanks very much, Vincent. Next up on the agenda was Mark to talk about some updates to Wis Deploy.
Oh, it's Matt.
Matt, sorry, I wrote down the wrong name. That's
Mark's
my fault.
Yeah, so Wis Deploy, we've been doing lots of changes. We had this thing called interactive mode, which we purged to streamline our code base. We just viewed interactive mode not in line with our automated vision of how we fit into a tool chain. But what we did do is we're reviewing some PRs now to add what's called an export feature, which basically allows us to grab all the dependencies, interpolate all the values, and repackage everything as a single package for downstream usage. So we can basically send it down to Invoker or someplace down the line as a single package. We now support dependencies. I know Dragos reached out to us and opened up an issue that we were only supporting public GitHub repos for dependencies. We now support private repos, and if we can't access it, we'll just throw an error. But we now support all repos, anything you can put it into a URL. We will try to pull as an external packaging repo. We're now working on what's called a report feature. Basically post interpolation, we want to be able to spit out a JSON format of the output and have configurable flags. So basically can maybe just see what required input parameters you're missing, and give UI hinting perhaps, so for people for other tools to use for prompting, things like that. So again, you'll see a new report feature hopefully soon. Export should be merged today, and that's about it. Keep using Wis Deploy and giving us feedback.
Cool. Great. Thanks very much, Matt. I think, Carlos, you had mentioned possibly discussing HTTP by default between the edge and I guess the controller for local deploys. I don't know if you still want to talk about that or not. I was a little hazy on the details of what you were bringing up there. I just noted it down earlier.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Am I on mute?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh. Yeah, it looks like a PR made HTTPS by default. I think it's good to have that in Travis, because then it's tested. If somebody changes something or breaks something, we know that if it breaks, also validates that it works. But I think for local development in your laptop, maybe some folks were not prepared. Maybe some repos were not prepared, so they were broken. Like some of the runtimes, the dev tools, the vagrants, I think the CLI, all of them had some assumptions of HTTP, and maybe Wis Deploy also. I'm not sure. But now it's configurable, so it's a matter of what you want to do. I fixed a few repos and just added a a variable to the group bars saying HTTP, or in the Ansible playbook OpenWhisk.yaml. So I was wondering if what people think about making that HTTP by default in local, but still keeping HTTPS in Travis. If that's useful or not, or I'm just concerned if we were hit, maybe people outside our close community also maybe also hit if they're cloning and going with it. But we still need to fix Dragon, I think. But I'll double check. Chetam was looking into it. I'll see if there's only any other problems. So just an open discussion, and we don't have to decide here. But something that I was thinking today, as people were asking me what to do with their repos that they were not building or passing builds or tests.
I think it would be nice to have it default not HTTP in for local, so it avoids a lot of headaches for people to debug things.
Yeah, the edge always been HTTPS. That's another one that I've been thinking of. Maybe the edge should be HTTP to make it easier to work, but we have to make sure that we don't lose coverage. That's coverage. But yeah, I think we can discuss in the dev list or an issue. But it was a minor thing, not a big issue. I think that's it. What I had. I'll be out in the West Coast next week. So you want to catch me or talk to me, I'll be in the Vegas. There's an IBM conference called Think, and some of the IBMers will be there also. And I'll be doing some demos, presentations, labs on IBM Functions / OpenWhisk. I think Dan will also be there.
Yep, I'll be there. Are we gonna? Is there a birds of a feather? Maybe we can get together.
Yeah, we should do that. If anyone is listening here or Slack or on Deplist, maybe we can post it there, and pick a date. We can talk all Whisk, OpenWhisk all night.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the planned agenda. Sans finding a moderator for the next meeting, which I think, if I have it right, is March 28th. Are there any volunteers? I'm happy to do it again if there are no volunteers, but
not everyone at once, please.
Yeah. That's fine. If there's somebody that wants to volunteer, just shoot me or Matt an email, and we'll hook you up with the instructions. It's fairly painless, as doing it the first time I can attest to. So if not, I guess I'll ask if there's any other further topics anybody wants to discuss, and if not, we'll all drop off and we'll chat again on the 28th. Anything else?
No.
Nope.
Glad to see everyone.
Thanks very much, everybody. Bye.